Yes.
Good, good morning, everybody. Thank to join us. I know that is lunchtime and also it's the last day, but we are very, very happy to introduce you to the last panel, Voices from City, that was organized by Swahili Porta, an organization based in Mombasa, and the Swahili Pot NGO is part of One Habitat Uni Hub organization that is Heritopolis Society. Our slogan is Metropoli as Heritage. So our concern is to understand how is it possible to speak about heritage and its legacy, even though we are dealing with the new metropolitan huge dimension. And in particular, due to the fact that we are dealing with the topic of metropolitanization, that in a lot of cases seems to erase a relevant part of our territorial knowledges and practices. So what we try to figure out today and what we are doing inside the Heritopolis societies that is also hosted and promoted by the Minister of Culture of the Korea is to understand how is it possible to define new common, collective common of public spaces that can allow to have a metropolitan experience that we think could be the only possibility that we have to define a new metropolitan urbanity. So the the presence of the key study of Swahili Pot, and in particular the presence of Abdul Raham Ndvekva, sorry Abdul, I'm not able to pronounce your name, is fundamental because what they would like to present us is the idea that language, and in particular this new kind of language that is a Swahili pot, so a mixité between Swahili and English, and it's typical of the young generation. I don't know if you know that there is also a playlist of the Swahili pot music, is really a new way to define a new kind of community, uh, using also the new kind of languages, devices, and way to communicate. Then we will have another interesting case studies from Santiago de Chile, with Professor Umberto Bonomo from the Pontificia Universidad de Chile. I would like also to mention how is relevant the fact that we start with a key study from Africa and we will finish with key studies from Latin America. So the two continents that really are struggling with the problem of metropolitanization, but also the two continents that are able probably to define new solution in terms of return back to think about what does it mean collective space, a concept that probably in Europe we forgot. Instead, in Latin America, it's really something that is rooted into the culture of the urban discipline. And so we will have the key study in Santiago de Chile, and then we will have another voice from city, Latin American city, that is from Mexico, Guadalajara. I also have to thank to the other member of Heritopolis Society, Professor Peter from ICOMOS, and Professor David that is from London and Royal College and they bring us the two other aspect of our Heritopolis society. So something that is related to the institutional way to conserve our territory and urbanity, and I'm speaking about e-commerce, but also, and I'm speaking about the competence of Professor David Simon, the idea that when we are speaking about heritage right now, we are speaking about the conservation of our landscape, and in particular about water and green infrastructure. So the possibility to merge, and that is something that we try to deal with in the Heritopolis society, to deal with the implementation, not only the conservation of our construction, our cities, but also that right now the need to implement in our thought also the care for the environment. So nature-based solution, sure, but also cultural-based solution, because at the end we have to produce a quality of space for everybody. So, and that is the reason why we introduce, we ask to present our society here at WUF, since everything starts at home is a concept that for Heritopolis society could be one of the starting point of our thought. So I leave the floor to Abu from Mombasa. Abu is connected online. I hope that he can hear and see us. Abu?
Yes. Good afternoon, Antonella. Yes, I think am I audible?
I hear you, but I cannot see you. Right now we can, probably there
right.
is a slow in the echo.
Yeah, I am. Yes.
Ecco, Abu. Thank you very much.
Good
I know
afternoon,
that also is
Antonella.
Friday and it's a holiday, so thank you very much to join us. The floor is for you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Antonella, and good afternoon, distinguished guests and delegates attending this session. It's very sad that I wasn't able to join the team of my colleagues, Antonella and Umberto and Ramon, right there in Cairo. It would have been an incredible experience just networking and meeting everyone, but I'm still glad to have joined virtually. And I apologize for the background noise. I think there's a construction going on right behind me that I cannot do anything about. My name is Abdurrahman Degwa. I head the Heritage Department at Swahili Port Hub Foundation. And Swahili Port Hub Foundation is a youth-oriented space based in Mombasa, Kenya. We have been in existence since 2016, first as a community-based organization, and then recently we became a foundation. And our main focus is the youth. What we try, or rather what we call opportunity youth, that is the youth who are neither in training, in education, or in formal employment. And in NGO terms, they call them the NEET, NEET youth. And that is our target because, again, based on the dimensions of the new urban agenda of the policy of not leaving anyone behind, we are really trying to strike that equilibrium, even in economic matters, trying to motivate and mentor these young people who have either dropped out of school, they're still looking for jobs, haven't joined tertiary institutions, just to look at ways where we can take what they love and taking their skills and just scaling them to something that can give them meaningful employment. I'm really glad to be here, and also on behalf of my organization to be part of the Heritopolis Society. Heritopolis means a lot to us, and being part of this incredible society has really sharpened and really motivated us to do something about our lovely city, Mombasa. And again, our main focus again is the youth and the conversations that we've been having around Heritopolis. It's how how do we bring youth into these conversations on cultural heritage, on urban heritage, on preservation of what we already have as modern heritage. And I'm really glad my dear friend Antonella mentioned the intersectionality of language, of English and Kiswahili in urban spaces, not only basically in major urban spaces in Kenya, where we have this unique language that is specifically for the youth, was created by the youth, and it is the youth that normally use it to converse, all right? And recently we had our biggest event, that is the One Innovation Week. And for the first time, we were able to bring in the conversation on Heritopolis. I know we've been having talks on having actually a conference, the Heritopolis conference in Mombasa, but we were able to have an afternoon. We had Professor Mike Turner joining us for the Heritopolis session. And the session really opened the eyes of a lot of young people as regards urban heritage, and the preservation of urban heritage. I wish to mention that Mombasa is an island. It's a small place. And then again, it's one of the most vibrant cities in the Kenyan coast. As such, there's a huge rate of this rapid urbanization, where people are coming in to this small island to either work or live. And we tend to have this, what we call, sort of, Mombasa exists between profit on one side and preservation on the other. We have very old historic buildings that make Mombasa what it is, And I really wish one of my mentors, Dr. Kalandak, who's also part of the Heritopolis Society, was here with us, because he's been instrumental in the restoration and the preservation of old buildings in Mombasa. And he's also been a key member in this conversation on how we encourage these young people, especially the students he has at Technical University of Mombasa, the students who are doing architecture and preservation. How do we merge new forms of architecture with the old and existing kind? So this is a conversation that is actually going on, and we're really glad that it is happening under the banner of Heritopolis. Youth form a huge number in Kenya, and I know we had this conversation during the Pan Innovation Week, where we are trying to juxtapose these two spaces, the global north and the global south, and we tend to have huge or large youth populations in Africa as opposed to other countries. And earlier this year, that is between June and August, young people took to the streets in major urban centers throughout Kenya to protest against the proposed finance bill by the government. And for the first time, these young people were able to hold the government accountable, and the world listened. And our politicians and our leaders, they listened. And mind you, this is a cohort of very young people, most of whom are, under the age of 30. And this also brought out a very important aspect, the need of including youth when creating these policies and frameworks by the government. But again, for us, especially as heritage practitioners, the question then, or the challenge now that we're looking at, is how do we have these young people understand their cultural heritage? Now, beyond understanding, we cannot make them do it, but by providing the necessary training and information for them to understand their heritage, then they're able to love it and preserve it, And after that, we had several sittings with young people. Again, at Swahili Port Hub, what we do, yes, we are formal, but we also tend to be a little bit informal because of the target group that we have. Yes, you might want to push these conversations, these discourses to understand how young people interpret heritage, how they understand built heritage in Mombasa, and how they're also part of new forms of heritage that are taking shape in this old city. And our main language, yes, it could be English normally, but again, the language of both is Sheng. So Sheng is this hybrid language that is a mix of both, a little bit of English, a little bit of Kiswahili, It has other borrowed words from Arabic, from some Indian dialects, some Portuguese as well. So we also see a lot of colonial influence in these new language, these new urban language. Now, our main agenda was to understand, we as heritage practitioners, what can we do to the young people for them to understand heritage? But then what we established was, it's not always about doing something for our peers, these young people, but again, it's seeing them not as beneficiaries, but as partners in these interventions that we intend to create. And what we've started at Swahili Pot is a series of conversations based on how these young people interpret and understand heritage. And it's very sad that one of the things that we realized is that our young people, there's a huge gap between them and cultural heritage. 10 out of 10, or let's be fair, 9 out of 10 young people in Kenya no longer visit museums. And this is a sad fact. But the questions that we've been asking, why don't you visit museums? How do you understand these buildings that are everywhere? The historical significance of having these buildings with us. The historical significance of actually participating in their preservation. And one question that came up, or one concern that came up, is that indeed we need to have or create or curate new museum experiences for these young people. Then that way we are also able to bring them in, to harness their power into the preservation of cultural heritage. Right now we are working on a documentary, and we were hoping to be in a position to actually present it at the World Urban Forum, because this would have been the perfect place to have this documentary running. We've been working on it for a while now, just basically trying to establish this evolution of language within urban cities in Kenya, and how this language came to be, this Sheng language came to be. And then through our research, we also realized that language traveled with the evolution of transportation in Kenya. What started in the 1960s as very formal transportation with buses provided by the government was disrupted by other privately owned public means that were driven by a need for the youth of that time to have spaces that they can express themselves, spaces that they can be themselves, spaces where, knowingly or unknowingly, they can create new forms of heritage. And we call them matatus in Sheng. Basically, they are public transport. And if anybody has been in Nairobi or Mombasa, you must have seen these flashy graffiti with loud music. That is what the youth prefer, and that is something that the youth made, and that is one of the strongest elements of modern heritage that we have existing in our urban centers all around Kenya. And what we realized is that the language of the matatus was very youth-oriented, very youth-driven. Because what started, Sheng started as a way of rebelling, against the status quo, and for these young people, the need to actually have a language that is specifically for the youth, that sort of like locks other people out, and it's always been like that. It's a language that evolves very rapidly. I know there's a group in Nairobi that really tried to create a dictionary for that language, but again, it's a language that every few months we have new words. Right now, I can speak a very old dialect of Sheng. If I'm to meet a young person in the streets of Nairobi, on the streets of Mombasa, and they speak the Sheng that is new, the new kind of Sheng that we have right now, I would totally be lost. So this is something that has become a very powerful element of modern heritage, and these are things that we are out to preserve. How do these young people express themselves through these matatus? The music that is played in these matatus, the graffiti that is painted all over these matatus. What does it say about these young people? And you find most of our young people actually have allegiance to cultures beyond the immediate communities. And then we as heritage practitioners then try to understand this and to preserve the same, and always remind these young people that yes, you might be propagating cultures that are way beyond our immediate environment, our immediate ecosystem, our immediate cultural ecosystem. But then again, we have our own cultures, And that is why it's very important as we are preserving this aspects of language, aspects of public transportation. We also need to think about new forms of music that are taking shape in our urban centers. And this is young people realizing the need to go back and preserve their own indigenous languages, their own indigenous music. And then we have these young people coming up with diverse forms of music, that are intergenerational, right? And as we are moving on into the future, as we're creating these conversations around Heritopolis, and also about the need to have new museums, the need to, we might not necessarily decolonize the existing museum models, but then again, it's interrogating these existing models. How do they accommodate the youth of the day? Do we need museum experiences, or do we need to rethink what is already on board? And these are questions we are grappling with right now, because there's always the challenge of trying to work on that which is existing and then losing the youth in the process, because for them, they don't find meaning in current museums, in current forms of, old or traditional heritage. So then again, if we need to preserve these young people and to pull them into heritage preservation, then we need to put their concerns into action. And these might involve creating these collective spaces, linking the young people in the community and the government and private sector and all stakeholders involved to really understand the importance. Sorry?
Excuse me. Our friend Antonella had to leave, but I will take the microphone just to control the time. You can have 5 minutes. Is it okay for you? Thank you.
All right. Yes. And, actually, I was just about to sum up. Yes. So the conversations we're having right now at Swahilipot Hub, because majority of the people that we actually target are middle under 30 years old. We did those focus group discussions just about 2 months ago. They're still ongoing. And in the data that we collected, all the young people are below 30 years old. And these are people who sort of feel dissatisfied and discontent with how heritage is disseminated to them. And I'm really glad, first of all, to be here, and also to have, I'll be having a meeting later, maybe in the next 1 hour. We're having a meeting with Mombasa County, who are one of our biggest partners, especially when it comes to this preservation of cultural heritage and, talking about aspects of modern heritage that also need to be preserved. So we'll be talking, it's a meeting that we really need to address the needs of young people, and how do we, and just come up with ways and ideas on how to have cultural education programs. Because again, this is something that has been missing, and it is a huge step towards decolonizing our own history that has in so many ways not favored spaces, historical places like Mombasa. So it's a chance for us to actually create a curriculum, a syllabus that focuses on the preservation of heritage in the context of Mombasa. So moving forward, we're really glad to be part of this again, to work with incredible faces and individuals in the world of heritage, from Antonella, Umberto, Ramon, Professor Mike Turner, and the entire Heritopolis society, because again, it's very important, because it's an important link. On one side, we have community, we have youth on the other, and then we have academia. And these three units need to work together collectively and build these synergies through foundations or through spaces like Swahilipot Hub Foundation, so that we're able to break down this information for these young people and then just give them, enable them, give them the understanding of heritage in all its nuances, so that now they are able to preserve and promote this beautiful city of ours for the sake of future generations. So I'm really glad for the time to present this. I was really hoping to be with you in Cairo. I understand it's very hot. It's hotter in Mombasa, probably. But thank you so much for this time. So over to you, Umberto. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abu. Well, I will give the word. You have the floor, Umberto.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramon. And yeah, I will present you today some ideas about how the future is, the past is our future on one hand, and another idea is that a century ago we knew what were the 15-minute cities or the common and collective space was. In sense that, you know, of course, know this photo about the demolition of Pre-Taigo in St. Louis in 1972. In this moment, Charles Jenks says that that was the day modern architecture died. And the story that I will tell you today is related with these topics. The topic with the modern neighborhood unit that were built all around Latin America between 1940 and 1970. The neighborhood unit is a fundamental piece for the common space in our metropolises. And when I talk about a neighborhood unit, I'm referring, of course, to this scheme of Clarence Perry in 1929, that is a structure of a new neighborhood with the school is where the school is the center of the new community that that is proposed to be built in these you know, parks and playgrounds where the houses were placed. And of course, the idea of the neighborhood unit is related with the idea of 15-minute city, with education, proximity, and community. Many concepts that we have discussed in these days during the WOOF. But from the idea of the neighborhood unit on the final of the 20 and the neighborhood unit that were built after the Second World War, there was happened something really important in all around the world, but specifically in Latin America, and is the approval of many laws related with the common as a new kind of space that they are called the co-ownership law, or the laws that promote the possibility to sell different departments that are part of the same building, for example. And the promotion of these laws, it's quite similar. Happened in the same time in different countries in Latin America, in Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, and the approval of these laws that are in the bottom part of the screen in red anticipate the construction of these neighborhood units, these huge complexes that we have in our metropolis today. And as I said, the approval of this law promote the construction of neighborhood units all around the continent in Latin America, for example, in Peru, with the Unidad Vecinal number 3, or in Barrio Perales in Buenos Aires in 1946, or Pedregullo in Rio de Janeiro, 1947, or, for example, in Multifamiliar Miguel Alemán in Mexico, of course. You know these cases in 1947. But what's happened in Chile? In Chile we had a very specific condition, because the story of neighborhood unit is not an unlucky story as Pre-Taigo, but it's a very complex, but at the end, until today, a very good and happy story. This is the scheme that supports some of the theoretical issues related with the neighborhood unit, a scheme of Emilio Duarte, a Chilean architect that worked with Le Corbusier in France. And what is important to me for this scheme is the idea that the family the family, the single family is the basis of the new community, is the basis of the neighbor. The neighbor is the multiplication of the neighbors, the scheme of the city, and the multiplication of city is the basis of the metropolis. Of course that today this linear structure is basic, but in a moment in which we are, invaded by data and many other topics and complexities, to think about the family as the basis of the neighbor and the life in community is very fundamental to me. And now I will show you some cases in Santiago. For example, this one, Unidad Vecinal Providencia, in the center of the city, in which the quality of the common space that were built in this case is made by gardens, pedestrian pathways, swimming pools that promote the life of the new community in this neighbor. And today this neighborhood unit is very central in the city, very well connected with the metro and public transportation, and has very good quality of life. The one common ground of all these cases is only the 20% of the ground of the space is built, and 80% is free for community life and for people that live there. And another case, another aspect that is very important to mention is that this common ground, it's open and it's part of the city, but it's a private space. It's a private space shared by all the owners and free to the city. And another case, for example, in this case, Villa Olímpica, that was built for the football championship that was played in Chile in 1962. For example, you can see how the building built these patios in which the family and the children can play free and safe by the cars or the dynamic of the metropolis that around this neighborhood unit. And of course, maybe the most important case that I will show you today is the Unidad Vecinal Portales, and which has a very good quality of common ground, of this common and shared ground with gardens, trees, with this high-level streets that it was considered a very public space, as you see in the photo, in which the children and the community, the new community of inhabitants can develop themselves. In many of these cases, also art were included as a part of educating the population and as a strong idea to generate a new identity. That is another aspect that it's important to mention. The role of architecture and this idea to generate a very strong identity that it's completely alive until today. And you can see, for example, that trees were the original trees present in the plot before the construction and the project of this neighborhood unit, and were maintained and also included into architecture to declare the importance of the quality of garden, the quality of green, the quality of nature for and promoting the life of this new community, these new inhabitants. We have to consider that this is they are economical, affordable housing, and the quality of construction, the generosity of the space, it's amazing if we compare with the city that we are building all around the world today. Look at this, for example, the way in which the children cross and play and run all over this common ground, the share and common ground that was open to the community and, as I said, open to the city also. Today, more of these neighborhood units are in a process of recovering, and they are recovered because the community moved themselves to generate these instruments, legal instrument to declare and protect. For example, in this match that was took place in 2015 in Chile, a self-organized neighbor modern housing project promote this kind of heritage as a value and as a right also. And they start a self-organized movement to declare and protect this neighborhood. For example, in Villa Olímpica, they write down all the specification of the declaration process. They move politically and publicly to generate awareness about the heritage and to promote that this kind of heritage, these kinds of spaces are very important to the metropolitan life, and they had to be protected. They create, for example, like in this case, a game that generate, as I mentioned, awareness about the values of that are present here. Or in the case of Unidad Vecinal Portales, many publication and workshop did it in this with the community in this place, generate a sense and reactivate a sense of awareness and reinforce the identity that was present here. And now this is a photo that I took in 2010 of this place, and today this place were completely recovered and restored by a public program destined to recover these common spaces in the metropolis. And again, the art as an important factor to the transmission of cultural values and to generate these identities. And to conclude, I would like to mention that the common space is a legacy for the idea of architecture and modern urbanism, and a heritage value is contemporary in contemporary metropolises. The common space is an alternative possibility to the schematic duality between private and public, which enriches urban life. The common space is a fundamental element in creating new communities and feelings of belonging. And of course, communities are the basis for the sustainability of our neighbors, cities, and metropolises. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Humberto. Well, it's my turn. Please, could you put my presentation? Well, okay, I will address some words concerning three topics about the metropolitan heritage, specifically the public space. Humberto was talking about the public space, but at a different scale. And so these three topics I want to talk about is the first is the construction of the fabric of metropolitan urbanity. Second, the temporality of the change and the reconstruction of metropolitan space in Latin America vis-a-vis the timeless community experiences. Regarding the main proposal of this panel, which establishes as its purpose the construction of the fabric of metropolitan urbanity, it reminds me that in fact the city and therefore the metropolis is an unfinished artifact or object. Evoking in a certain way the principles of urban morphology, it could be stated that the type of transformation that metropolis constantly experiences is related to temporality with the paradigm that emerged at the turning point of time. And continuing with the spirit of this panel, which refers to the importance of timeless community experiences, I think it is important to highlight the values of collective memory, which lead to the issue of the identity of cultures. And by that, I am not referring to ethnic identity, but to the values, expressions, and material elements that have a meaning and contribute to keep a community together. We know that cultural heritage is classified into material and immaterial. In this occasion, I will talk mainly about material heritage, not because it is the most important, but because it is the one that is most related to the planning of metropolitan territory. It is at this point what I would like to stop and refer to the Latin American metropolises whose heritage values are situated in three large dimensions or categories. The first one is the footprint of human settlements of First Nations. The second, architecture and the colonial urban fabric. And third, the contemporary architecture and urban fabric. And a separate category is the natural infrastructure that we can mention. I mean the green and blue infrastructure. Within this context, it seemed to me that metropolitan heritage and a specific public space must be evaluated. In Mexico, these three categories can be clearly identified since there are spaces whose morphology maintain in the same place features of the pre-Hispanic past, and we can see in the photo, for example, the join of three different culture. I mean the pre-Hispanic culture in the first plane of the photo. Then the colonial culture, we can see the church, for example, in the picture, and the modern or contemporary architecture in the same space. Likewise, there are traditional spaces where the population goes to for recreation or to commemorate historical events or celebrate some achievement or express the opinion of a social group. So there are as well contemporary spaces that need to be restored, preserved for the new generation. And the natural spaces in Mexico, for example, there are last years, there are many manifestations of people who live, for example, in towns close to the beach, because right now with the political liberalism, there are many spaces that in the beginning were public spaces, and right now there are has been privatizados, privatized. Sorry, yes. And so in the university, for example, we have did many works with the students in order to identify public and historical places as academic exercises. But I think this kind of exercises could give some sensibility to students for understand the importance of this kind of values on the metropolis. And finally, I will like to share with you this video. This is the Chinampas.
Para nosotros es muy importante el agua.
It's a
Porque si no hay
collective
agua, pues no hay nada.
agricultural
No podemos
production.
producir. Desgraciadamente, ahorita hay agua porque hay lluvias, pero en tiempos de sequías sufrimos muchos porque hay partes realmente son terrenos que están produciendo ahorita, pero en tiempos de secas realmente
He's talking
no
about the
producimos
problem
nada,
of the
todo se
water
nos echa a perder porque por la sequía,
in order to continue
por los malos manejos
cultivating
de
this
las
kind
administraciones
of
como SACMEX, que hace obras pero que no
agricultural
funcionan, en
spaces.
realidad hacen y no se hacen responsables. Ellos las hacen y no hay ningún responsable que responda por ello.
¿Qué hay que hacer?
Pues más que nada que se comprometan a realmente a lo que ellos saben, su trabajo.
Sí, pero ¿qué? ¿Cuál es?
It's just a small video that shows us this collective spaces that is a very traditional spaces in Mexico City. This is in a lake which name is Xochimilco, into the Mexico metropolis. So this is my presentation, and thank you so much. Well, I don't know if there's some reaction in the public, or if you want to add something, Humberto, it's okay?
I don't know if. Well, maybe comment that the work that we are doing in as Heritopolis consortium is related precisely to flourish the values of heritage in our metropolises, and at the same time that flourishing, values consider and include many new challenges that we have to face, and I think that the integration between all these layers, natural layers, cultural layers, tangible, intangible, the dimension of property, private, public, common, etc., demonstrate the complexity, but also the fascinating work that we have to do, and from today to the future. The microphone there.
It works very well. My name is Klaus-Peter Echter, and I'm also a member of the steering committee of Heritopolis. And it's really a complicated case, and it's something new in the heritage theory also. So we discuss the problem, the metropolis as heritage, and heritage in the metropolis. And we didn't come until now. Closer. We didn't come until now to a conclusion. So we are working on it. And I think what Antonella said in the beginning, it's different between the continents, like in Europe and in Latin America, and so I'm really thankful that we got examples from Latin America and also from Africa. These two continents were the ones where Antonella said there are the most changes in metropolitan. And I think so we are really proud that we had conferences or research fora in Mombasa, first one was in Istanbul, and third one was in London, and another one was, well, I forgot. But altogether we have four conferences in different cities, and I think we will publish this also, and then we had also research fora on different topics like nature and rural urban, and so I think we are in the process of working on this, and we would also like to elaborate a manifesto on, and Antonella is the one who is responsible for, not only her, but she is responsible for it. So I think now we are working for 3 years for the Heritopolis Society, and what is also striking for us that students, the youth is working in this, and so I think we are on a good way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. So I think we finished the session. Thanks so much for your attendance.